this one takes a little longer. For the bottom tier of the cake, there'll be one section that's slightly longer than any of the other sections. It's exactly the same size as the bottom tier of the wedding cake. So keep that one apart so you know that you need to use that. There'll then be 4 other sections that are nearly as big, but are larger than any other section. So they're nearly as wide as the bottom tier, but are lots wider than any of the other tiers. And for these, you'll have 2 parts that have 3 holes at the bottom and 2 holes at the top. And you'll have 2 parts that have 2 holes at the bottom and 3 holes at the top. We'll focus just on these 5 parts first before I go on to explaining the other sections to you. For your actual main section of your wedding cake, this has to be quite sturdy to be able to hold the whole cake up. We then take the larger section that we talked about. So this is the largest out of all the parts. And this has a hole in the middle at the bottom here. And we're going to slot that over this hole in the bottom tier of the cake here. Now to do this, we have to slot it through this hole and down here, which does mean bending the card a little, but card is flexible enough to be able to do that. So we slot it through and then slot it over that hole. We then take 2 sections of the card with 3 holes at the top, one of these holes being in the middle. And we slot this underneath this hole at the bottom here. We take the other section with the 3 holes at the top and take the middle section and slot it underneath the cake. So we now have 3 sections attached to the cake. We're now going to take the section here that's got 1 hole at the bottom and 2 either side. This is actually going to slot over this hole in this section here and then underneath the holes either side there. So it's going to slot over that one, and then we're actually going to have to bend the card here to slot them over and under each other, and do exactly the same at this side. Bend the card to slot them over and under each other. Now if you can see how that's on there now. We're going to turn it round and do exactly the same at the other side, and we're going to slot the middle over the hole in the section here, and where you now have 2 holes left here, you're going to slot this one over there and this one over there. So you now have a crisscross section in the middle of your cake. What we're now going to take is 4 of the smaller sections. Now there's actually lots of these smaller sections. There's 8 in total, and what you need is 2 with a single hole at the bottom and 2 with a single hole at the top. All 8 are the same size, so it doesn't matter which ones you use. First, take one with a single hole at the bottom, and we're going to turn the cake round like that, and you're going to slot this one over this hole here, and then there's 2 holes at the top here. They're going to slot under either side here. Now again, you're going to have to bend the edges to do that. So we slot it over this one here, and then if you see right at the corner here, you have a hole there and a hole there. We're going to have to bend the edges of the card to get them to overlap each other, and then do exactly the same at this side so that they hold together. We do exactly the same at the other side. Take one with a single hole at the bottom, slot it over and overlap the edges at either side. We're then going to do exactly the same at the front and the back of the card with the 2 other small parts that have a single hole at the top. So this time you're going to slot it underneath this section and then over either side. It goes underneath there and then slot over and under either side. like so, and then on the reverse of the card, one with a single hole at the top, slot underneath, and then slot over and under at either side. You then have the bottom tier of your cake in place. You can see that from underneath. For the middle tier of the cake, you have 5 sections, 3 with a single hole at the bottom and 3 with a single hole at the top. These are all a similar size to the middle part of the cake here. We're going to take one section and we're going to have to bend it and slot it through this hole in the middle here and over this slot here. So take one with a hole in the middle there and bend it slightly to get it through and to get it slotted over the centre there. You're then going to take the other 2 with the holes at the bottom and you're going to slot these over either side of the edges. So for your middle tier, you now have 3 going front to back and 1 section going through. You're then left with 2 parts with a single hole at the top and 2 holes at the bottom. The single hole at the top actually needs to thread inside the cake here and up into this slot. Okay. So again, you have to bend your card slightly to get it to do that. Right. So that's it in place there. Now as you'll see, there's 2 slots either side here. These need to overlap with these parts that you just added before, just by slotting the ends over and under each other on both sides. You then do the same with the other side. This has to go through the centre of the cake and into the remaining slot, and then slot over and under with the parts either side. You then have the middle tier of your cake completed. For your top tier, you have 2 parts with a single hole at the bottom, 2 parts with a single hole at the top, and 1 part with some kind of decoration at the top. I've put a little love heart on mine. Take the part with 1 hole at the bottom and any kind of decoration you want to use, and slot this between the hole between the doves. Now if you don't want a decoration there, or you don't want the doves there, you don't have to use them. When you cut the template out, you could just cut straight over, or you could put somebody's initials or some other design on. Then what you want to do is take the 2 parts with a hole, 1 hole at the bottom, and slot these either side in these slots at the top. So then, as before, you have 3 parts going front to back and 1 part going over. You then want to take one of the parts with a single hole at the top and 2 holes at the bottom, and this is going to slot upwards into this middle section and then slot over the 2 sections either side. So, slots up there, and then these 2 edges fold into each other at the edge, the same as on all the other layers of the cake. And then do exactly the same on the other side. The last part slots from underneath and then slots over at the edges. You will then have a completed 3-tier Jenigami wedding cake.